Hey folks, it's Greg Siskind here. I'm joined by my colleagues Elissa Taub and Meghan Moody, and we are here to talk about immigration news of the week, which there were a few things that have happened in the since the last time we were here. So we'll start actually with I mean, I know a lot of people are probably going to be joining because they want to hear about H-1B stuff, and we are going to talk extensively about that. But there was some news this morning that was obviously disturbing and also will no doubt have some kind of follow-on impacts from the administration. So, Elissa or Meghan, what happened in Dallas?
Well, this morning, there was a man who took a sniper position on the top of a building across the street from the Dallas ICE field office. And he fired off a whole bunch of shots. Mostly, it sounds like, into a van that was carrying ICE detainees, so immigrants that ICE was transporting from one place to another. And I understand, I don't recall I think 3 people potentially were shot. The shooter took his own life. And I know at least one of the people who was shot passed away. I've heard conflicting reports whether it was 1 or 2 people died, and a third person potentially in the hospital. Obviously, this is just horrendous and super tragic, especially, considering all the news that's happened over the last few weeks in this country. Some information is like trickling out about the shooter. And of course, very quickly, the administration came out and immediately attributed to him a motive to harm law enforcement, even though no officers were shot or even injured in the attack. So it's very unclear exactly what the facts are. And I think unfortunately, it's going to be difficult for us really to know what the facts are, because the way that this has been reported out was, very conclusory before they even had information on the ground. I don't think I've seen any information about who the victims were, sadly. That's a piece of information. I think that the government, not thinking that these folks, are real people, might, they're not thinking about the fact that they're like the victims are actually the immigrants that were in the van. So I don't think I've seen any information about them yet, which is unfortunate, but hopefully that information will be brought to light so that people can, mourn them and remember who they were. So that's the gist of what happened in Dallas this morning. I know Ayla actually issued a statement, about it as well this afternoon.
Yeah. And it's worrying a lot of, I mean, obviously it's horrible. And whether you're a, ICE officer or you're just, somebody who's got family members that are in detention facilities and all that, it's worrying. It's worrying for immigration lawyers who frequently are interacting with ICE officials, and and it makes you think about all the other places that, whether it's immigration court or USCIS offices, and, where people with an agenda might be targeting. It's all bad. I don't really know. I'm guessing everything is going to become a fortified, like the schools were are now compared to when we were kids. And it's just it's just there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing good that can come of it. I'm sure there's the the typical angry stuff that's going to be coming, and and all that. I don't even want to guess about that, but just for a while, it's like between this, with the various things that are happening, it just makes you like worry about everything that anybody does, and anybody who works in any kind of space in America that is at all the subject of disagreement, political disagreement right now, is like thinking, should I be worried on there? I mean, that's so, and obviously it's terrible for these families that are gonna, that have had a lot of a lot of bad news from an immigration perspective, and now they're thinking about this too.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. There's not much we to add to that, but other than just noting our disgust. Okay, well, we have this lawsuit that and this proclamation, and we have this new fee. So a lot of folks that have been, we had a very eventful weekend in immigration lawyer world. Our firm, but lots of others that were basically, felt very 2017 all over again. In the early 2017, when the first travel ban went into effect, we had tons of clients that were outside the country, and we were trying to figure out how to get them back in. And this was a complete rerun because, in case you haven't heard about it now, there were actually a couple of things that happened on Friday, immigration wise, at the White House, one of which we'll get to in a minute, but I'll talk about the one that's probably the more serious immediate problem, which was this H-1B proclamation. The proclamation, which is kind of a hard thing. It's not a long thing, but it's kind of hard to get your hands around exactly what it's doing, because doesn't seem like it was written by people with any immigration lawyers in the room, even government immigration lawyers in the room, to kind of explain concepts to them. But basically, what it said was that if you are in H-1B status, you're subject to a 212F travel ban, and the only ways around it were to either get a national interest exemption or to pay $100,000 fee, which was going to be administered by the Secretary of Homeland Security, and that it was going into effect at midnight or 12:01 a.m. Saturday or Sunday the 21st, whatever that midnight Saturday night on there. And not a lot of other information in there, except for the fact that they were calling for some new regulations to come out in the H-1B space. But that's where we were left, thinking that anybody, I mean, it literally says if you're in an H-1B status, you're subject to a travel ban starting at midnight. They weren't going to apply it to people that were outside of the country who already, what was it that if you were outside the country on the at the time of the proclamation, and you had well, I'll have to go back and look at it, but basically that what I just explained to you is the gist of it. Then apparently, after getting a lot of phone calls from freaked out companies and others overnight, they then changed it. So, and one thing to point out was there was a very specific reason why they picked Saturday night, because October 1st is the new allotment of all the new H-1Bs that have start dates on October 1st. So these are people who have visas that start October 1st, and you're allowed to enter the country up to 10 days beforehand on an H-1B visa. Well, 10 days beforehand is actually, I think, 12:30 a.m. I forget what the exact time was, but basically it was impossible for people that were in these October 1st start dates to get it. So they were very specific in trying to basically keep out people that were winners of the 2020 the lottery that happened earlier this year. It's fiscal year 2026, even though these people are still 2025. So that's what was intended. But after the blowback, this was like the most. I mean, this administration. It's like when somebody is going to write a book one day about all the gaslighting where people kind of catch problems or unintended consequences and all that, they pretend like they meant to do that all along and it was in your head and you're just spreading fake news, which is, I think they even used the fake news term here. But basically they said, okay, now it's just going to apply to people it's not going to apply to people that had already filed H-1B petitions before midnight on Saturday night. Now, Elissa, or Meghan, I can ask either one of you this. I'm going to throw a couple of scenarios. You tell me if the person's covered or not covered under the travel ban. So they filed an H-1B, but they haven't actually had the I-129 adjudicated yet. They did that before Saturday. Are they good or they're not good?
They're good.
Okay. Now they've had the I-129 approved and they are outside the country, but they haven't actually gone in for a visa stamp. Good or not good?
Good.
Should be good.
Okay. Now they're in the United States. Their status is expired. They filed an I-129 for an extension of status. Are they good or are they not good?
They should be good.
Should
As
be
long
good.
Right. Okay. Now they are in the United States. They are changing employers, and they're filing a change of status petition to start with a new employer. Are they good or are they not good?
That is unclear.
That is unclear.
That's a hard question.
Number one question that we're getting right now, and there are lawyers who are so certain about it. And it's like, I'm glad you're certain about it because I don't know how you're certain about it on there.
Greg, I know I said it to all of you yesterday, or the day before, but like I reached the immigration singularity where every listserv I'm on was having the same conversation at the same time, going around in circles constantly all day Monday. And I was about to pull out my hair. And I think everybody, and I think the challenge is, and this is what I've been explaining to clients and other people who are asking me about this. We as lawyers want to be very precise, and we're required to be, because when the government adjudicates petitions, when they look at stuff in the mailroom, they are very deliberate about things, and they're very detail oriented. And so we need to be deliberate and detail oriented about how we advise our clients and what we send out to the Immigration Service. And all of the communication that has come from the government about this fee has been anything but precise and deliberate. It is totally born of people who do not know how anything works. And, if they wanted to implement a fee like this, there were a million different ways that they could have done it that were different than what they did and would have led to more predictable results. But the question you asked about somebody changing employers. So if they're already in H-1B status and they're going to change employers, well, when the Immigration Service came out with their little supplemental memo over the weekend, all they said was that this only applies to people who were outside the United States and didn't have petitions filed, or they said it would apply to people who didn't have petitions filed before the 21st. Stated differently, it would only apply to petitions filed after September 21st. But they would exempt renewals. Well, renewals is not a term in the law, right? We have extensions of stay, but we don't have renewals. So then It was, well, what is a renewal? Is that a change of employer that comes along with a request for an extension of stay for somebody who is already in H-1B status? Or because you're changing employers, is that person not covered under the umbrella of, already being in H-1B status and only needing a renewal? And then the other question was, what about changes of status, like from O to H or from J to H or things like that, F to H? And I think to me, it's almost a little bit clearer that those folks may be covered by this, but still,
I think they're clearly covered.
And the other question is, I think there was something in the original proclamation directing USCIS to kind of hold back adjudication of petitions until the fee was paid. But ultimately, the legal basis of the proclamation was 212F and 215A, basically two sections of the law that only govern entry. Right. So they are wanting to hold back on adjudications, but yet saying, well, this is only really a travel ban and you can, the fee is only relevant to entry. And so it's very, very confusing, the whole thing. And the government's subsequent clarifications didn't really clarify a whole lot.
No, and there's no way to pay the fee right now, which I think is an important note. When you're filing a petition right now, there is no method for them to accept that payment.
Yeah.
And nothing on a form to check off to say you're subject to it or not.
No.
And by the way, they just did away with paying by check to the agency.
Well, they're about to.
Where they're about to, but now nobody has $100,000 limit on their credit card. Although I guess you could do a debit card and have a special account that's just for that money.
Can you imagine you're filing 10 petitions in a day for the firm, and you'd have to have $1 million in fees set aside to pay for the 10 H1? I mean, it's absolute lunacy.
No one's paying that money. But on there, so so I guess we're telling clients in this situation kind of if you can wait a little bit, we'll get some clarity soon. my guess is we're either going to get some kind of advisory from the government, or we're going to hear from lawyers who've actually filed these things and premium processed them and are getting approvals that will tell us the answer without the government having to, because we'll just see what's happening. So it's going to take it could be soon that we hear from the government, or it may take a couple of weeks till we actually find out what's happening. All right, so more scenarios. Doctors, J1 waivers. They're in the middle of a J1 waiver. They don't have anything filed yet for an H1B, and they're just getting their waiver approval. Covered?
I think they're covered.
I think so too.
Yeah, sadly, and that's going to be interesting. And politically, that's a heavy lift for the administration. There were some suggestions that they might try and take care of the doctors. I don't trust these people. But
if anybody's listening, I would really like an exemption for all healthcare providers, not just physicians. Physicians would be great. We need that. And my opinion, if you see me talk on LinkedIn about this, is that, and on Facebook, I mean, like the entire healthcare sector in the United States would be devastated if H1B physicians and nurses and PTs and pharmacists and medical technologists and stuff, if they're not available, because I mean, healthcare systems right now are pushed to the brink by all the Medicaid cuts. They can't afford to go out and pay an extra.
Rural America depends on them even more than the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really going to devastate the
Lisa, you always know the numbers. Like, what's the percentage of internists that are international medical graduates?
Oh, it's a lot.
Isn't it like 40%?
45% or something of the folks that are in the United States training who are international medical grads. Upwards of 80% of them, I think, are on J's versus, training on an H. So a physician who's in the United States already in H1B status, for residency or something, for this one scenario might be a little bit better off than the J doctors, but not by a lot, because they've got a lot of other issues. But for all of the doctors training on J's who are going to be finishing training in June of 2026, and this is the time to be signing contracts and, talking with employers and getting waivers filed. I've got several of them sitting on the couch in my office waiting for me to sign them. This is a big time of year for that. And it's very nerve-wracking to think about filing all these waivers, getting them approved, and then sitting here trying to figure out what to do on their H1Bs because the employers, can't shell out the $100,000. I have had a couple of healthcare employers come to me and say that they would pay it on behalf of the doctor. But I don't think that's going to be the majority, especially of larger employers who are going to go out and shell out this money.
I can't imagine federally qualified health centers and rural health
nonprofits, nonprofit health systems. It would really be a tremendous ask. And so,
what about all the K through 12 teachers? Mm-hmm. There's tons of them on H1Bs, foreign language teachers all over America. I mean, a lot of school districts can't find Spanish teachers and French teachers.
Yep.
It's math and science teachers in a lot of places, especially rural America. They rely on teachers, international teachers coming in. It is, I want to imagine the school board meeting where somebody brings up this question of whether they should pay $100,000 filing fee for a teacher that's probably being paid $50,000 or $55,000 on there, and then they watching that person basically get run out of the room with pitchforks. So it's just not going to happen for a big chunk of the country, and right now, the people that the canary in the coal mine on this whole thing are the nonprofits and the schools and the cap exempt employers, because the cap subject employers, for the most part, their pain is deferred until next year for a lot of them because of the way they changed this rule up over the weekend. But the cap exempt employers are feeling it now. So I'll switch subjects a little bit, but stay in the same area. But just to mention that, yes, there's litigation that's in the works. If anybody watches my social media feeds, they know that that's happening. I have been working on, with a bunch of lawyers on this project. There's probably 30 lawyers that are that we're working on something. I can't talk about what arguments we're going to be making. We don't want to sort of broadcast to the government how we're going to approach. I don't want to talk about which plaintiffs we're going to include, although if you are affected by this, reach out to me or to my colleague John Amain Bailey, who's been on this live stream before, and we will see if you're potentially a fit. I thank people who've already reached out to us, and obviously, one of the things I can tell you that we're going to be trying to do in this case is to try and tell the broader story of H-1Bs and how they're so important to the entire country and the entire economy. The way that this proclamation read, you would think that the only people on H-1Bs are, staffing company tech workers that are working at third-party sites. And by the way, those people are doing great, important work as well, and that they've sort of been demonized by the administration for doing really important work to keep America's edge in the technology sector. But there's a bigger story about H-1Bs than just that population, and that's what we're going to be trying to talk about. So that, I think, Elissa, we should probably turn it to the next subject. I don't know if we want to talk about, let's talk about the other executive order from Friday night, and then we're going to talk about more H-1B stuff because I think we're just going to deal with things chronologically.
Because who doesn't love a bunch of H-1B stuff?
Sure. All right. So, Meghan.
Yes.
Is it a gold card? Is it a silver card? Is it platinum? Is it diamond? Is it, this is not really what was advertised initially, although I think Trump had a big picture of like a gold credit card. But tell me about what happened on Friday night in that regard.
Yeah, so Trump signed an executive order on Friday, essentially launching his Trump gold card. So it's a little bit different than what was originally discussed. It looks like there's 3 different levels to this gold card. There is, well, I guess 2 different levels.
Elite, the double elite and the triple elite.
Platinum. It's actually, I think, called platinum. But yeah, there's so the basic gold card is basically in exchange for $1 million, $1 million contribution.
Oh, great. I've got it right here. Yeah, no.
You can obtain lawful permanent residency. And then if it's a company, a corporate gold card, I guess, which is $2 million per employee. And then there's a platinum card, which is $5 million. And that one gives you just the ability to spend 270 days in the U.S. without having to pay U.S. taxes on foreign income. So that one is not really like a permanent resident.
Is this this gold card concept, I guess, for these different levels? Is this like in one of the green card categories that's already there, or are they like basically inventing something new?
It looks like it's going to be underneath the EB1 and EB2 green card category, but it's really unclear how this is going to work, right? There's no...
Where is it in the Immigration Act does it talk about that you can, in the EB1 section, EB2 section, that the president can basically come up with new categories?
Yeah, there's no authorization for this anywhere.
I mean, I guess so. The idea is that if you're rich if you're wealthy, by definition, you're extraordinary. Is that basically what they're saying?
Yeah, you're either ordinary, exceptional.
Yeah, that you will offer a substantial benefit if a company's willing to spend $2 million on you, or you're willing to pay.
That's evidence you're super fancy. Okay.
Right.
Okay, and I'm gonna, Elissa, first I'll go with you. Odds that this will ever happen.
Well, I don't gamble, and I feel like the odds are pretty low. that this is actually going to get codified in some way that's workable. And I think that the backlash on this, I mean, there are some folks, and we have heard from some folks that are like, hey, where do I sign up? And I don't blame them, because the green card backlogs are kind of long, right? But I think it was pointed out to me the other day that it says that a visa number has to be immediately available in order for somebody to take advantage of this. So one of the challenges here is that Indian nationals would be completely shut out, because EB1
That sounds like a silver card. That doesn't sound like a gold card.
Right? I think it sounds like a sham card is what it sounds like. Because right now EB2 is backlogged for everybody, so nobody would be able to use it in that category. And EB1 is backlogged for India and China. So we're only talking about folks not from those countries that potentially could take advantage of this. And when you add in the fact that the statute literally has no justification for this, like the regulations already define what is extraordinary, what is exceptional, who qualifies. This is like so far outside.
The dumb thing about this is that if the president actually tried to do this legislatively, he might actually succeed.
Yeah, Congress might actually create. Well, you know what the problem is?
Yes.
The problem with that is that you might need more numbers. And Stephen Miller said no more numbers.
Right. And forget he's sort of the president. At least on immigration issues, it seems like he can bend the will. Okay. So that is that and Megan, I didn't let you weigh in. What do you think? Happening or not happening? Chances of it this is ever going to be that you're ever going to get a client where we're going to really be fine.
Very, very low chance that this passes.
I agree. I agree right now, and there will be litigation, no doubt, because to the extent that this is going to push people who have been working really hard on their green card applications further back in the backlog, while somebody can just basically pay the the fast pass fee at Disney World or whatever. You pay these crazy fees and you get to go right to the front of the line, and it's just total merit. This elite system that they have in the theme parks now, where everybody is different depending on how much you're paying. Okay, so that happened. All right, and then we got greeted with this. So while everybody's kind of absorbing the news on this $100,000 business, we got this other H-1B news that was also, I guess it was expected. They've been kind of like saying for a while that they were going to do something where they were, what I thought was going to be coming was some kind of systemized way to rank for the H-1B lottery, where they were going to do it by certain types of workers might get ranked higher than others, and STEM would be here and this one would be there. I don't know if that's still coming, but for right now, this is sort of this weird gamification, I guess you could call it, of where you get so many chances in the lottery depending on how much you're getting paid. So we got these level 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 wages. You get 4 shots for level 4, 3 shots for level 2, 3 shots for level 3, 2 shots for level 2, 1 shot for level 1 on there. And I give them points for sort of making it easy to remember kind of how it works on there. That's a very easy rule to figure out, like basically how it works. And obviously what I think they're hoping for is, well, everybody is going to try and get level 4 now, which to give them 4 shots in the lottery. I had a consultation with somebody, a Silicon Valley person, and we were kind of talking through the $100,000 is like, okay, you got to pay that. And now you're going from like level 2 to level 4 for like a software engineer in Silicon Valley. And it's like a $75,000 or $100,000 jump in salary between the two. So it's like basically this employer is like, I have to pay $200,000 more dollars out for this person in year 1, and $100,000 more out, or whatever it was for them for each year after that. And it was like, that seems to be where they're going with this on there. And it's like, if you move your company to Canada, I won't blame you on there. But that was so that's why this is so scary for a lot of employers that, dealing with that. It basically it kills the H-1B option for probably 95% of employers, and basically a handful of big tech companies are going to, probably be the ones that are using it.
And actually, and I'm pretty sure that that's where the $100,000 fee and all of this is coming from. I think it was Reed Hastings, who is the founder of Netflix, that said that he was all in favor of this, because if you got all these other people out of the lottery because their employers couldn't afford to pay the $100,000, then all these tech companies would be able to get all the H's they want without having a lottery.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really the point.
You know what Reed Hastings probably doesn't realize? Maybe he does. He's not.
I don't think he does, because he actually wrote H-1B wrong in
How
his
many of these companies have contractors working for them on H-1Bs that are employed elsewhere? They have no idea. All they see is like, oh, we only sponsor 40 H-1Bs a year, whatever the number is. I don't know what the number is that they sponsor. You can go look it up on the USCIS website. But there's a lot of people that are working for these companies, essentially, not being directed by them, but they're basically working on contracts for these companies on site that are not probably being considered, and they're not paying each one of those contract employees. They're not going to pay them $100,000. So this is going to have a big impact on them anyway, because they're going to be paying a lot more than they think they are, because they think that these contractors are going to cover that fee. Maybe, I don't know. I just have a feeling they have no clue that that's like a big part of their workforce, that they're not factoring in, and how much difficulty these companies are going to have.
And I think it also goes back to the point we were making earlier about the $100,000 fee, that a lot of these folks don't care that tech workers aren't the only users of the H-1B. So when we go back, a lot of school teachers, a lot of school systems are exempt from the cap. A lot of physicians work for cap exempt employers, but there are still non-tech employers that hire H-1B workers. And they do it because when they go out into the marketplace to recruit, they're looking for the best available. And it actually always costs more money to hire an H-1B worker than it does an American worker. And so they're looking to, find the best people, and this would totally price them out. So it's not
the government filing fees and the legal fees that you have to go through. And then a lot of times the prevailing wage numbers are higher than, that they're paying their foreign workers actually higher than they're paying their U.S. workers in order to comply, but they do it because they have to. This is all scary news. Now, I will say that this is not the first time this issue of trying to force workers to pay a level 4 wage has come up. We've been here before. We were here in 2020. Where, in my recollection, it's all a little hazy now. Everything pre-COVID is a little hazy, but my recollection, Elissa, correct me if I'm wrong, was that they were essentially mandating that everybody had to pay level 4 wages or something thereabouts.
They recalibrated the previous. So, one of the things that the H-1B fee proclamation did was it directed the Department of Labor to promulgate a new prevailing wage rule that would substantially raise prevailing wage rates. And that's what they tried to do last time around. Was they basically tried to make like all the level 1s into level 4 wages, so that the starting salaries would all be at the top of the line. And it was awful. Even my physicians are paid very well, but even we were looking at it and we're like, oh my gosh, we have nobody that qualifies. And of course that rule was kicked out by a lawsuit.
Lawsuit.
Yeah. And it goes back
we were lawyers on that suit.
Yeah, actually we were. It goes back to that fair market value idea that healthcare employers face other rules out there about how they pay physicians, and they can't pay a physician more than what the fair market value dictates. So, for some of this stuff, even though it doesn't specifically apply to one industry or another, you have an industry like healthcare that's very heavily regulated. And so, an employer can't just go out and pay everybody a level 4 wage, even
Right.
if they want to, because they could be getting in trouble somewhere else in the regulatory scheme. So it's very problematic.
Yeah, I've learned over the years about some of those rules and why they conflict with immigration rules on there. I forget what it's called. What's the rule about the wages?
Well, Stark and anti-kickback and the fair market value stuff.
Stark
And
rules. The Stark rules are very specific on what employers can do in the wage arena without getting into trouble with those rules. And sometimes there's no way to reconcile them, which is a hard thing to explain to our clients, that these two things conflict and you have to pick which one you want to violate. Okay, so the point on that one was the courts already have decided that the government doesn't have the ability, and they're not allowed under statute to mandate these kind of wages, and the way that they did it on there. I'm thinking this one is even less likely to succeed on there, because this is this system where it's completely they're weighting it to. You could always argue that the wages themselves, how they calculated them, were, there was some rational basis for this, but I don't know. I just don't think that. I think this is actually an easier case than the one in 2020. We will see. Already people are asking who's going to be suing on it. I have a feeling by next week we'll have a better idea on it. In the meantime, there's 30 days to comment on it. And hopefully the more comments they get, the longer it takes for them to issue a final rule. And they're going to do an interim final, and they're going to do a final rule on this. And it's coming regardless, I think, of how many comments they get saying this is a terrible idea, because I think they just do what they want to do. But we are encouraging people to file comments. I actually did some kind of fun on the AI the AI tool that I work on, this visalaw.ai tool. I asked it to give me arguments for comments, the AI tool, and I posted them on LinkedIn earlier this evening. If you go to my LinkedIn feed, you'll see some of that. And I asked it to give me comments from the perspective of a super squeezed startup company that doesn't have a lot of fat to be able to jack salaries up. And then I asked it to give me the perspective from a K through 12 school system writing comments. But it was kind of interesting that on that. And so if it's any consolation, you can use an AI. You don't have to use our tool. You just go on ChatGPT, and it could help you hopefully draft something a little more quickly on there. It is really important to comment. If this rule is going to be hurting you, you're an employer or you're a worker and you're afraid that you're going to not get a job offer, or your employer is going to cut you loose if all of a sudden you're way out of line as far as like what's normal for salary, you need to pay attention to this. So this is a big thing we're probably going to be talking a lot about over the next couple months. Okay, Megan, anything else on the list for the week? We have a couple of questions, so I'll get to that after. But I'm just trying to make sure that we hit the biggies.
I think we covered everything I had on my list. Elissa, do you have anything else?
There wasn't a lot of like litigation, like suit news that I had seen this week on there.
Well, there was. Did we talk about the administration's attempt to take away the TPS designation for Syria?
Oh no, we haven't. So that's a good one on here. So yeah, and there was sort of also this typo, I guess, on the dates. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, I saw something about that, but I was distracted.
Well, what could have been going on? And there was Tom Homan's bag of cash.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
News. So the bag.
He's a lawbreaker.
Yeah. So Tom Homan, the ICE, the head of ICE, who is apparently under investigation from FBI and DOJ. I don't know who else was involved with it, but took a bag of $50,000 And I've I heard him saying it's like I'm a clip. I haven't really paid that much attention because I've had other things going on. But he was saying something to the effect, trying to make, instead of just like denying that he knew what was in the bag or anything like that. I think he was trying to like actually say no, it was completely legal on there. But my favorite sort of like take on this whole thing was Scott Galloway on the Pivot podcast, and also Kara Swish. They laid into the guy. It's like, what kind of crook are you? $50,000. That's all it takes to buy you. Come on, this is America. It should have taken a lot more.
My favorite part of this whole thing is, for 4 years or however long they railed against the Biden crime family and, came up with these really convoluted stories about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and bribes and all of this. And then Tom Homan is literally on camera, like on tape, accepting a bag of cash. And they're like, Megyn Kelly was like, yeah, I don't care. He's a great guy. And it's like, what worlds are we in? I don't understand. But yeah, it was like, we don't care about that. Just
okay. And he's actually a real office holder, unlike Hunter Biden, who didn't have any actual role in the U.S. government on there. But anyway, all right. So that happened. That was on the list. We have the TPS Syria thing too on there. All right, let's go to a couple of questions. We had a question about the changes to the citizenship test. Has that already happened?
It's been announced, and the new test questions, I think, have been revealed. It's now going to be, there's a question pool. Well, it doesn't start until October. I think applications filed on or after October 18th, I want to say. So if you've already filed your naturalization application, you still should get the old test. But if you file on or after the 18th of October, I believe is the date, then you would be taking the new test. And the new test now has a question pool of 128 questions versus just 100. And you can be asked a maximum of 20 questions versus 10 on the old one, but you still only have to pass with a 60%.
Yeah. Okay.
It's October 20th, but yes.
I've had 3 people ask the identical question, and I don't know how that happens, but I'll post it because, and also, I don't know if Elissa or Meghan, if either one of you are joining me on a Zoom that we're doing with Project IMG right after this at 8:00 Central. We're going to be actually talking about physicians and these changes and the impact. But I will say, the lawsuit itself, we hope to have physicians represented in the plaintiffs and healthcare employers represented in there. I mean, that's a hope. On there, I'm not going to sort of reveal anything more as far as like the plaintiffs are going to look like or the legal theories. But what I will say is that we are going to be attacking the entire proclamation, both the fee and the travel ban, so that exemptions aren't necessary because this thing won't exist at all on there. So I also will tell you that we are, we're very close to being able to file. There's just a lot of things that have to happen before this thing gets submitted in court. So, but I will promise you by when we have this next week, we'll be talking about that lawsuit in the past tense as far as having already been filed. I keep hearing, I'm not going to tell you dates, but it's like it's within, it'll be very, 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 very soon. And as far as the exemption for physicians, we talked about that a little bit earlier. The White House sort of threw out that possibility earlier. They have not even explained to us yet how one applies for a national interest exemption. We don't even know where you file for that, whether it's with the lockbox or it's going to be something that you file after it's receipted in. We don't know whether, or maybe you file it at the consulates abroad. We just don't know. They haven't given any information at all about how national interest exemptions are going to work. It does say in there it's can be done on an individual occupation or industry basis.
What I would recommend, if there are any folks on this live stream tonight who, are in an industry where you believe there should be some kind of exemption, healthcare employers, university employers, folks of that ilk, people have been asking me, well, how do we advocate on this? Like, who do we have our government relations people call? And my response has been, well, if you have connections in the White House, this is the time to use them. It's directly to the White House or the highest levels of DHS. Going to your senator or congressman on this really is worthless. You've got to advocate directly with the White House and let them know, why, and that this is like critical, like absolutely.
Or you advocate with your member of Congress, and then they will.
And then they can go. It depends. Kind of depends on who your member of Congress is and what they're willing to do
if
for
you're
you.
If you're a big employer that's super important in your state or in your congressional district, and your congressman is not out there advocating, then you're probably not pushing them hard enough on there. So that is another way to do it. Some companies are just going to basically be hiring lobbyists. I have a feeling for the next few months that are just going to be working on this issue. It's such a waste of money that's going to be spent.
But right now, nothing's been written. So there's still, in my opinion, right, nothing's been written. No exemptions. USCIS officers don't have any guidance on what to do. So this is the time because things are being written now. So it's really, really critical.
Yeah. We did get this question. We talked about it earlier, how possible with the $1 million gold card. After this is over, go rewind to probably about 15 minutes in or so. I can't remember where we talked about it, but
but I wanted to say, Greg, on that one, the person who asked about the gold card, that person's emoji is how I've been feeling since Friday. Perfect.
But there's no way to actually apply for this gold card right now. I mean, if you go to the website, you can get on a waiting list to get information on how to apply, but there's no actual application for that right now.
Nope. But they keep harping on it. I mean, I thought it was a joke at the beginning. I never think. Now I'm starting to think, no matter how ridiculous it is, it's always taken seriously because it seems like it's going to keep coming back, and like somebody's actually working on something. There are ridiculous things that have been said before by the president or by at the White House that never actually turned into anything. But sometimes somebody, it seems like they approach him with some crazy idea at the beginning, and he sort of mentions it offhand, and then you realize that there's somebody behind the scenes that's actually pushing for that crazy idea on there. So anyway, we'll have to wait for the book at the end on that, which tells us. All right, so we are going to dismiss class a little bit earlier. Elissa and I are going to be, and Megan, if she wants, or Megan's not, Elissa's not, just me. Just me.
Just
right,
you.
I'm going on the Zoom with Project IMG at the top of the hour. If you are a doctor, I find their social media. You can see how to get onto that thing. I'm looking forward to talking to them. And we will see you next week, where hopefully we'll at least have some more definitive news on some of the stuff that were open questions tonight. Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.